happened? No, they broke up. Allegedly. No, allegedly. It was all alleged. It was alleged. Hey girl, hey, it's your girl Taylor-Nicole, and this is Alleged Tea, the podcast.
Hey girl, hey, it's your girl Taylor-Nicole, and you are listening to the Alleged Tea podcast. So what are we gonna be talking about today? Today we're gonna be talking about the fact that some relationships, babe, don't work out, okay? Some relationships don't work out, and how do you identify when you're in the wrong relationship? We're gonna talk about it because I've been plenty of the wrong ones. You know what I mean? I haven't been in any of the right ones. Let me know when you find him. Let me know when you find him. Send him my way. But anyways, I did a live the other day on my TikTok and we were talking about, I said this statement and I want to read it to you. I have my notes. I have my notes for you, babe. I said, the minute you start to maneuver different parts of your personality or changing parts of your personality and who you are as a person to avoid confrontation or an argument, you're in the wrong relationship. So I've talked a lot about my exes. You guys know the whole list. We got them all. We got a whole smorgasbord of wrong men for me, right? But what I haven't really talked about is certain things in the relationship that were huge red flags or just things that should have signaled to me that something was wrong, but I was so far deep into it that you're almost blinded to the obvious. To everybody else, explaining it to somebody else, you sound crazy. So this episode is gonna kind of be about that, how to identify things in a relationship when you're too far gone, or honestly, just to bond over the fact that we've been with some shitty ass fucking men, bitch. We've been with some shitty ass men, okay? And I would like to remind you to stay to the end of this podcast because there will be a little night tea cap where I tell you a little bit of news that I have. Okay, so anyways, let's get back to it. So how this whole conversation even got started to begin with. So the reason why this all got brought up in the first place was that I was on a TikTok live and I had come to this realization the other day. I realized that when I went to a speed dating event, so I was at a speed dating event, I went by myself, I went with no alcohol, I'm still sober, 7 months sober, bitch. Congratulations. I was at the speed dating event. I found myself only talking to one person the entire time. Mind you, I was scared shitless, bitch. Have you ever gone to something sober? You have to talk to a bunch of different people that you don't know and you don't have a single friend with you? Terrifying. An introvert's worst fucking nightmare. But anyways, not the point. I was there and I found myself only talking to this one guy. And while I was in conversation with him, I noticed a learned habit that I haven't unlearned from my previous relationship. So that's something we're gonna be talking about a lot in this episode. Something that people don't talk about a lot is that when you're in back-to-back toxic relationships or you're in a long-term toxic relationship, whatever the case may be, if you were in a toxic relationship, you picked up toxic habits or got reinforced of your already toxic habits and you now have to unlearn those things, okay? And what's really hard about this is that you may not even know of the habits that you picked up until you get into a relationship with a new person. So something that me and my therapist always talked about is a lot of people think that being single is being healed, right? You're in your healing phase, you're in your single girl era, you think that you're healing, right? But actually, the way to heal a relationship wound is kind of being in a relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that you get out of one relationship and you jump into another one. You do need time to feel those feelings that you had for your previous person, to go through the motions of the heartbreak. But it comes to a certain point where you're single for a year and some change and you're kind of almost avoiding relationships because you don't want to deal with the fact that you have to face certain parts of yourself. I want you to re-listen to that again. You almost start to avoid relationships because you're afraid to face certain parts of yourself. Think about that. Relationships are like mirrors, right? Any relationship you have with anybody, there's a reason why you have the friends that you have, right? They connect to a certain part of your personality. If you start to not like your friends, what was the thing that you liked about them in the beginning that you no longer like about them? Is it because you're growing and you're changing and they're not growing with you? And so that old part of your personality is staying stuck with them and you're no longer that person anymore? That's usually the reason why you grow out of friendships, right? So with that being said, I was at this speed dating event, right? Talking to this guy and I realized that I have this learned habit of not looking around when I'm talking to somebody. I never used to be like this, but in a previous relationship, said person would get jealous or upset whenever I would glance around the room. Now, a lot of what I'm gonna tell you today is gonna sound batshit fucking crazy, okay? And a lot of what I'm gonna explain to you, you're gonna be like, well, that would never be me. I would never do that. Like, I'm a strong, independent woman. My mind is strong. My mental is strong. I wouldn't allow a man to make me do the things that I'm about to tell you, right? And in reality, this can happen to anybody. And I don't want you to make the mistake of thinking that this could never happen to you, because that's what I did, and all it did was reinforce that it's not happening to me. It led me to this place of denial, basically, okay? So I just want to let you know that this can't happen to you. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're not strong. It just means that you saw the good in somebody, okay? Just keep that in mind. So with that being said, I'm at the speed dating event and I was afraid to look around the room. I was afraid to give my attention, and I'm putting quotation marks up, to other people in the room, even though the whole point of the speed dating event was to talk to as many people as you would like to see what type of person that you like. The whole point is to date. It's to see see what other people are there, to try to mingle, to try to mesh with somebody. And it was like the first person that I had talked to for a long period of time is the person that I stuck with, and I was afraid to break out of the conversation, right? Is that my own personal problem? Absolutely. Does this have anything to do with the guy? Absolutely not. He didn't do anything wrong. Point is that this habit that I learned came from a previous relationship, because anytime that I would look around, what he would do is that we would be in a conversation, and I tend to space out a lot, right? Like, I'm a spacey girl. Hello. I belong with the planets. I don't belong here. I'm amongst the stars, babe. I'm not here, okay? I am in La La Land 90% of the time. So I space out a lot, right? And if I were to space out behind him and to stare behind him, he would turn around and be like, what are you looking at? And if there happened to be a guy that was standing behind him, he'd be like, oh, you're looking at him. And even if he didn't even say you're looking at him, all of a sudden a fit would be thrown, and it would just, an argument would start because I was looking at said man, right? Or whatever. And this got progressively worse, right? So like if we were at the bar and there was a male bartender, right? And I was talking to the male bartender, I was flirting with him. So in order to avoid, and what would happen is learned behavior, right? So I learned that if I spoke or looked at another man, even though he didn't tell me not to do it, it was the action that caused the argument, right? So I learned that by me looking behind him and him thinking that I was staring at a man, it would cause an argument. He didn't tell me don't look at another man. He didn't tell me, oh, why are you talking? Why are you looking at him? You like him or you want to be with him. I mean, we've gotten into fights like that before, but that's not how it started, is my point, okay? It doesn't start off with, you can't wear that. Don't wear that. You're my girl. You're my woman. It doesn't start off like that. It never starts off like that, because how would they get you to do that? You would be like, you're fucking insane. What it starts off happening is they throw little fits when you do something that you don't like. So you learn to shift your behavior to avoid the argument. So for example, I learned that, okay, well, if I keep looking around, I'm going to constantly be getting into an argument with him. So instead, I would just keep all my focus on him. And then when he wasn't looking, okay, I would look around and shit, right? But if I stared too long in one direction, I would just be like, whatever, I'm just gonna like fucking turn my head or look down or whatever. This sounds crazy, right? This sounds crazy. This sounds like this, like when I look back on it and I think about what I'm saying right now, it sounds insane, okay? I'm here to tell you that this can really happen to anybody, and I want you to know that. And when it was happening, I thought that I was doing the right thing by avoiding the argument. That's my point. I didn't think I was being controlled or manipulated or whatever the fuck. I thought, okay, well, for the sake of the day, for the sake of my peace and his peace, I'm just not gonna fucking look around so we don't have to argue and we can have a good day. The minute you start saying something, I just want to have a good day. If those words come out of your mouth, I just want to have a good day. Can we just have a good day? All I wanted was a good day. You're in the wrong fucking relationship. Listen to me. You are in the wrong fucking relationship. You should always have more good days than bad days. And the bad days should still be counted as a win, okay? A little tiny argument shouldn't trash your entire day. You are in the wrong relationship. You are in the wrong relationship, okay? And that's something that I didn't know and learn until way later. Another thing was talking to men, right? God forbid, I'm a social butterfly. And what you'll find too in these relationships, when you're in these toxic relationships, is everything that they were initially attracted to in the beginning of the relationship, they fucking hate by the end of the relationship. It's a problem. So for example, right? Let's say you post bikini pictures on your Instagram story and that's your thing, or you're a weight loss person, like you're a weight loss influencer, you just lost a ton of weight, that's your thing. And that's what initially gets him to slide in your DMs. He's like, wow, congratulations, good job, wow, you look so good, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then you guys are dating for a couple months and he's like, wow, you look so good. Like, I love when you post your body, like it looks great, da, 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 da. And then all of a sudden, 6 months down the line, he's like, you fucking post pictures of your body to get other men's attention. The switch up is crazy. The switch up will literally have your head in a fucking like mind fuck, okay? Because you're like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about? And then you're arguing with him over the fact that he no longer likes who you are because he wants you to change into the version of him that he wants you to be. And then you're getting into an argument with him, arguing over the fact that he no longer likes the person that he was initially attracted to. And he now wants to change you into this different person. And a common theme in this argument is, well, you're in a relationship now, so you have to act XYZ. This is very confusing to a lot of people, right? Because they're like, well, I mean, he's kind of right? Like, I mean, if I'm in a relationship, I shouldn't be acting like XYZ. key. Don't let that man confuse you with his delusions with fucking reality, okay? If he now is telling you it's not appropriate for you to go up to a guy and order a drink at a bar because you're in a relationship, he's fucking insane. What they do is they take these generalized terms and try to confuse you with the fact that, oh, like you're in a relationship. And so you think, well, you're right, I am in a relationship, so I should be acting different. But that doesn't mean different to his extent. Do you understand what I'm saying? Please tell me you're getting me. Please, can I get a hallelujah? That is one thing that happens. The second thing I want to talk about in this whole toxic relationship dynamic is this idea of narcissism or a narcissist, right? And now there's two sides to this coin. Narcissism has gotten more known by the public, by the population over the last 5 to 6 years than it has ever before, right? More people know what a narcissist is, its tendencies, but that also means, and it's good, right? You want to know the signs. You want to know who you're dealing with. It's good that we are becoming more aware of the term narcissism and a narcissist, right? But what tends to happen is the misuse of that word, which is like a double-edged sword, right? Because when you misuse the word narcissist for somebody that's just maybe a toxic person or somebody that has toxic tendencies, when you misuse that word narcissist, you are essentially undervaluing other people's experiences. And let me explain, okay? What I mean by that is if I am dating this narcissistic or narcissist boyfriend, right? And he is controlling and manipulating, and I feel like I have to have blinders on. I can't even look around because it's going to cause an argument. He's going to throw a fit. We're going to get into a fight. Or I feel like I can't speak to another man without that causing an argument. Or there's like these mental gymnastics that I'm playing to even get through the day. Just the mental gymnastics is so exhausting that I'm physically tired because I can't even keep up with the fact that I'm arguing with this person about somebody that I dated 7 years ago and why 7 years ago I liked their photo. That's the type of mental gymnastics. And it's like, I want you to be this way while simultaneously being the other way. And you need to somehow fit in between these two opposites to please me. And it's like that every single day. And every single day, it's the same cycle, the same loop over and over and over again. And then you get into these arguments that's 6 hours long where you're explaining yourself so incredibly clear. And the person is choosing to misunderstand you, to exhaust you to the point of giving in. Do you understand what I just said? They are choosing to misunderstand you, to exhaust you to the point of giving in. That is what it's like dealing with a narcissist. It's this loop, this runaround, and they make you run and run and run and run. And then they go, no, you're running the wrong way. Even though I told you to go this way 5 million times before, you gotta go this way. And why were you going that way? And you say, you told me to go that way. And they say, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Why are you lying? I never told you to go that way. So now you're running this way. And it becomes this cat and mouse chase or this dangling carrot chase. At a certain point, the carrot's gone and you're running for no reason. And you realize it and you're like, what am I doing? And how did I get here? And it's the most mind fucking thing that you could possibly go through. And now when you talk to somebody that has a boyfriend that maybe doesn't text back quick enough, or he ghosts you for a couple hours and then comes back, and they're saying, oh, well, he's a narcissist. Or if your friend is dating a guy that talks about his job a lot or thinks he's super good looking, let's just say he's conceited, and they're like, well, he's a narcissist, he's full of himself. When people do that and they misuse the word narcissist, it completely undervalues the person that actually went through the experience with the narcissist. And what people get confused with is just because somebody has certain characteristics of a narcissist doesn't mean that's who they are. Somebody can have narcissistic tendencies, meaning that they have pieces of them that, yes, are narcissistic, but it doesn't mean they're a narcissist. You understand what I'm saying? So that getting confused can cause a lot of damage, but the fact that it's being more known what a narcissist is and how to spot those things is good, but it's also a double-edged sword. How do you know you're dealing with a narcissist? How do you know if you're dealing with these things? Honestly, truthfully, look at your childhood. Do you have a narcissistic parent? Because 9 out of 10 times, if you have a narcissistic parent, you're probably gonna check one of the boxes that you're gonna attract a narcissistic partner. That is your first form of love. That's the first way that you see love. That's your first bond, your first emotional bond. So a lot of people say, like, and I hate to break this to you, but they say you date your parent or you date somebody that's like your parent, right? Or somebody that has qualities like your parent, right? You'll say, well, my dad always built things. Like he always was the builder. He was Bob the builder. So in a man, she's looking for somebody that would also have those qualities, right? And it has the same of the opposite effect, right? So if your dad was somebody that always yelled or screamed or didn't know how to communicate, you may be looking for somebody that does the opposite. But what tends to happen instead, you end up attracting what's familiar. So what does that mean? What does that look like? You ever hear that saying where it's like, if you grew up with an angry man in your home, you will always have an angry man in your home? Have you ever heard that? That's because it's embedded in you, okay? It is literally embedded in you. And so a lot of people, when they come out of these very toxic childhood dynamics, they tend to recreate that same environment because that's home. That is literally home. So that's where you feel safe, even though you may have not felt safe. You recreate that because that's all you know. And so the hard part is attracting a partner that's actually safe. That's actually the difficult part. And maneuvering a safe and healthy relationship is probably one of the hardest things that you can do. Have you ever heard of that saying where it's like, you know, when chaos is peace to you, it's because you grew up in a chaotic household? And that's true. Like, peace will feel boring, right? Peace will feel like there's no excitement. This is not what love is. It's supposed to be chaotic and up and down and crazy, when in actuality, like, peace is everything that you need, but you're just so unfamiliar to it, you feel like it's wrong. If you're looking to see, well, is my partner a narcissist? Does my partner do things that are, I mean, do they have narcissistic tendencies? Well, take a good look. Do they resemble somebody in your life? Do they do things? Do they have these behaviors as somebody in your life? Now, does that mean that somebody that had grew up in a perfect household, quote unquote, which I don't believe anybody has grown up in a perfect household, does that mean that they can't attract a narcissistic partner? No, they absolutely can't. But it is helpful to look at your parent and child dynamic and be like, do they resemble somebody like that? And a lot of times we tend to do these same things with friends, right? We will attract friends that have these narcissistic qualities or narcissistic tendencies, these energy vampires, these people that suck your time and energy and want all your attention, and then they're gone, and then they want it again. And we like this dynamic because it's something that we know and we're used to. And so you also need to take a look at your friends. And this is where I'm going to switch into topic of friendships and low maintenance friends. A lot of people were talking about this in my TikTok live and they wanted me to talk about it, so here I am talking about it. So low maintenance friends is essentially an acquaintance, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know why we're relabeling words in this day and age, but a low maintenance friend to me is an acquaintance. It's somebody that you don't talk to every day. It's somebody that pops in and out of your life that you don't really know what's going on in their life. What would you call that? An acquaintance. You check in here and there. I mean, I don't really know what else to call that. And so people were asking me my thoughts on low maintenance friends. And here's my question to you. A lot of people are like, well, what do you think about low maintenance friends? What do you think? What do you think, right? Everybody wants to know what I think. And you know what I think? I think you should know how you feel about low maintenance friends. Because why are you asking me what I think about your friendships? And to me, that signals in my brain that you don't really know how you feel or you don't like it, and you're looking for somebody to confirm that. So let me tell you this. If I looked at you and said, I love low maintenance friends, would you be like, oh, I love that she said that? Or would you be like, what the fuck is she talking about? I didn't think that she was gonna say that. Whatever answer that you feel like you would agree with on me, if I said, yes, I love low maintenance friends, or if I said, no, I hate low maintenance friends, whichever you feel like, oh yeah, she's right, that's your answer. That's how you feel about it. So that's one. And then when it comes to relationships, right? Because essentially what we're talking about is all relationships, friendships, you know, with your friends, your family, your actual relationships with your significant other, right? All of these things come with a couple things, right? That we need to just recognize and put on the table. It's this perception and expectation you have of the other person, what they have of you, and what you allow in that friendship or relationship. And so this is where we're going to get into boundaries, okay? So let me explain something to you. Boundaries are to protect you. They are not to put a limiting thing on another person. So for example, a lot of narcissists, not a person with narcissistic tendencies, a full-blown narcissist will use boundaries, quote unquote. They'll use therapist talk, right? To confuse you into thinking that, quote unquote, is a boundary. So let me explain to you what exactly a boundary is and what exactly a boundary isn't. A boundary isn't something that is going to put a physical limitation on you. Something you cannot absolutely do. It is not me telling another person what they're allowed to do. It's protecting me and it's telling the other person what I'm going to do if said thing happens, right? And this can be confusing. And it took me a really long time to understand boundaries. So I am with you if you are confused. And I urge you to really pick up a book that is called Set Boundaries and Find Peace. Because the minute you know what a boundary is and you confirm to yourself you know what it is and you are confident in it, you're able to set better ones. You can't really set a boundary without knowing exactly what it is, right? Like you can't play a game if you don't know the rules. And so people will take advantage of you. Think about it like this. You're playing Monopoly. That person knows all the rules. You don't know the rules. Are you going to win the game? You have zero chance because you don't know how to play. You don't know how to play. Think about boundaries as the rules of the game. This has to happen like this because this is what I'm saying. And this is the game that we're playing. You are only in control when you have your boundaries in. It is now your game because it's your rules. The minute you don't have boundaries, it's somebody else's game and you're playing along to whatever the fuck they're saying. You understand what I'm saying? This is the book that I was telling everybody that they need to get if you're looking for how to set boundaries in a healthy way. It's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nedra Glover Tawwab. Okay, this is what the cover looks like. I'm gonna read you her definitions of boundaries, okay? Boundaries are expectations and needs that help you feel safe and comfortable in your relationships. Expectations in relationships help you stay mentally and emotionally well. Learning when to say no and when to say yes is also an essential part of feeling comfortable when interacting with others. So that is a good definition of boundaries, but if you're like me and you don't understand shit and you're very confused and you have poor boundaries, I'm gonna explain it to you in the way that I best understood it. Basically, what it is that if somebody is doing something and it's disrupting your peace, right? You're gonna build a little wall to protect your peace in that. So if you have somebody, for example, that's screaming and yelling at you in your face in an argument, swearing, cussing, everything, something that you would say that's a boundary, right? Is if you continue yelling like this, I'm gonna have to leave because I'm feeling very overwhelmed. I'm feeling incredibly overwhelmed. I don't think this is a healthy conversation, because the whole point of healthy boundaries is so that you maintain your peace. So you have this person cussing in your face, yelling at you and not communicating. The argument's going nowhere. It's getting out of hand. It's getting very overheated. A healthy boundary would look like something along the lines of, you know what? This conversation isn't going well. I feel like it's headed in an unhealthy direction. I don't feel comfortable with you swearing at me. It makes me feel really upset. I don't feel safe in the situation. I don't feel like we're having healthy communication. So I would like to leave. I'm gonna give you an hour to calm down, really collect your thoughts. I'm gonna give myself an hour and we'll meet back and have a conversation. That's something, that's how that would look like. What an unhealthy boundary would look like is, if you keep yelling, I'm gonna scream. If you keep yelling, I'm gonna hit you. It almost comes off as a consequence. And that is how you know that you're doing an unhealthy boundary. For me personally, this was a very hard conversation to have because I did not understand what a healthy boundary was. I only knew consequence. I only knew punishment. I only knew if you keep doing XYZ, then I'm gonna do this to you. And it's almost like a tit for tat kind of mentality where it's like, well, you did this to me, so I'm gonna do this back to you. Instead of it being like, let me communicate the fact that I didn't like this in order to change that person's behavior for the sake of my peace and my sanity. When I say the words change this person's behavior, I don't mean you're not allowed to post pictures on Instagram because it makes me feel unsafe and unhappy. That doesn't make any sense. There's no, it just doesn't make any sense. And for me, it's still kind of hard to explain boundaries, so I'm trying my very best to give you like the best example so you understand. It's really difficult to understand when you don't have examples of that or you weren't shown examples of that. And it's even more confusing if you were shown more of a tit for tat mentality where it's like, if you do this, I'm gonna do this. If you keep doing this, I'm gonna do this. It's almost like a form of punishment. And so the best way, and the thing that really made it click for me when I was in therapy and my therapist was explaining it to me, the thing that really made it click for me is that a boundary should not feel like a punishment for either party, and a boundary should feel like it's for you because it is for you. So it's something to do for you. It's not something to impose on another person. It's not a rule to impose on another person. It's something to protect you, right? So if you no longer feel good in the environment and you feel the need to leave or you feel the need to exit the conversation, then that's something you need to say. Or if you say, you know what, I don't like it when you cuss when we're arguing. I don't feel like it's effective. I don't feel like it's something that helps the conversation. If you start to yell and start to cuss, I'm gonna have to exit the situation because it makes me feel uncomfortable. And so now the choice that they're given is they could either continue to cuss, swear, yell, whatever the case may be, and then you no longer having a conversation with them, or they could decide to not cuss, swear, and yell, and you will have a conversation with them. The confusing part of this is that if you've dealt with a narcissist before, this will be used against you. So for example, and it's a mind fuck, okay? It really is. And so they'll use this idea of boundaries to essentially make you kind of maneuver who you are to fit their want and need. And so, for example, a switch up of this, how a narcissist would kind of do this, would be if they're disagreeing with you, you guys are at a disagreement, and they don't like what you're saying, all of a sudden a quote unquote boundary will be placed. Well, you're not hearing me. So because you're acting XYZ, I'm not gonna have a conversation with you anymore. And it's simply because they just don't like what you're saying. And that's more so of almost kind of like taking the privilege away of having a conversation so you can't have your own opinion. Do you get what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to explain, but it's almost like I don't want you to have a certain opinion and I don't want to hear you. So instead, I'm gonna say it's you. I'm gonna put the blame on you and say, well, you're not hearing me. And so we can't have this conversation anymore until you side with me, essentially. And the only way you're allowed to have that conversation is if you agree with whatever the fuck they're saying. Do you see the mind fuck? Do you see where I say that it's undervaluing other people's experiences when you just throw around the word narcissist? Because the literal mind games, I could literally write a book about the fucking mind games. Okay, it's insane. And the thing that I really want to stress with the most is that it starts off so small. It starts off so small, and I was talking about this on my live. It literally is something like, it starts off with, oh, just share your location with me because I want to make sure you're safe, right? I just want to make sure you're safe, share your location with me. And then you share your location, and then they're like, well, why were you at the gym for so long? You're like, what do you mean? I go to the gym all the time, 6 a.m. and I leave at 5 or whatever the fuck the case may be. They're like, yeah, but I checked your location and you were there till 6:10. And then you're like, well, I had to get in the car. Why are you checking my location? Like, what's the big deal? Oh, I was just wondering. I got worried. I want to make sure that you're safe. Then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then before you know it, you're explaining why you got to the gym 3 minutes early. You know what I mean? Like, and you really do. You really honestly think it won't happen to you. You really honestly think like, no, you would notice it. You would pull away. But it's because that these quote unquote red flags are so tiny and they're so small that they don't seem break upable. They don't seem like an end all be all fucking problem. It's like, well, I'm not going to break up with him because he asked me why I got to the gym 3 minutes early. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous in your head. But when it starts to add on top of that, those little things, well, now he wants to know exactly where I'm at 24/7, or he wants me to call him every time I get to a certain place, or now he doesn't want me to go to the gym because now he thinks because I've been getting there 3 minutes early every single day that I'm seeing somebody on the side. And now whenever I go to the gym, there's an argument. And now I stop going to the gym because I don't want to have an argument with him. So now I work out at home. And then now he doesn't want me to hang out with my friends because he gets jealous. And then before you know it, you're not doing anything but staying at home and you're isolated in this little tiny little bubble and you have no idea how you ended up there. So I really want to just stress to you that it's not as simple as just, oh, he just told me I couldn't hang out with my friends, because that's not how it happens. Because if that's how it happened, not a lot of people would be in those relationships. I can tell you that. And something else that I also really, really want to talk about is the fact that people fall for narcissists, right? You would think that, and I'm going to stop using the word narcissist because it's literally killing me to say that word every 5 seconds. But people will fall for these toxic people, right? And we almost tend to blame ourselves. It's even with friendships, right? We have these friends maybe that are really toxic. They truly do nothing but suck energy from us, or they cause problems, or they're not good in our lives, right? You may sit there and blame yourself, right? You're going to sit there and say, well, why did I let that happen? Why did I let that be? Why? Like, just why? Why am I doing this, right? And I don't ever want you to feel like it's your fault or the reason why a certain person is the way that they are. And it's never your fault that you're stupid or you didn't pick up on things quicker or whatever the case may be. I truthfully and honestly believe that a lot of these things stem from childhood. That's one, okay? Everybody's problems, I feel like, all stem from childhood. It's all something that happened in childhood that's just unhealed and they need to work on it. Everybody needs to go through fucking therapy and work on their childhood trauma bullshit, okay? That's one. Two, I feel like what tends to happen is when two people come together that are toxic is you see the good in that person. You see the potential to be good. You see glimpses of a good person here and there. And it almost gives you this hope that they will be like that all the time. And it's almost like chasing this dopamine of, well, I saw that good person like 2 days ago. I know they're still there. And then they show you another glimpse and then another glimpse. And then you're like, see, I knew it. I knew it. And it's this constant chase of like confirmation bias that they are a good person and you were right. The thing that really fucks you up the most, and the reason why people stay, is because they have to accept the fact that for all this time, that good person that they were chasing is not there and that they were wrong. That you were wrong. That person is not the good person that they claim to be, and you have to accept the reality in which you are in, and that you're not in this delusion anymore. The reality is that overall this person is not a good person and they don't know how to handle their emotions, and you cannot fix them. Let me stress that so much. You cannot fix these people. You cannot fix them. We like to sit here and think that we can fix everybody, right? And I'm one of those people. I'm a fixer, right? I think I could fix everybody. I think just give me some time. They just need a little love and they will be fixed. One, it's not your responsibility to fix people. It's just not. It's literally not your responsibility. And two, you can't do the work for them. You could bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. That's just plain and simple. You could sit somebody in therapy, have them talk to a therapist, but if they're not willing to put in the work to ask questions, wonder why they feel the way they feel, write down notes, really question their sense of psyche and everything about them, right? Things that bother them. They just sit there and simply have a conversation with the therapist. They're never going to be healed. It's on them. And a lot of people, and another thing that I feel like happens happens is there is usually some type of push between one person and another person when you're in some type of toxic dynamic, whether it's a friendship, a relationship, family members, whatever. There's usually some type of push on one end of saying like, hey, maybe I can give you some of these resources, or hey, you should look into this. When I was in a toxic relationship myself, I vividly remember sending articles to said person of just trying to get this person to understand where I'm coming from. And that is another thing, okay, that I would also like to address, is that this need and this sense of wanting to over explain yourself. If you feel like, what do they say? To be loved is to be seen and to be heard. As simple as that. If you are constantly over explaining yourself, taking a sentence and putting it in different and molding it a different way and handing it to them a different way and they still don't get it, and you're showing articles and you're showing examples and you're constantly saying it and they are not getting it, they are choosing to not get it because they don't want to understand you. They don't care to understand you and they don't want to. They simply just don't want to, because understanding you would mean accepting a part of themselves that they don't want to accept. And so by understanding you, they have to face some sense of reality at the fact that they're not perfect. So instead, they gaslight you, they misunderstand you, so they can stay in their delusional bubble of being in this perfect world that they deem for themselves. It's very complicated and it's not helpful. And I know that this episode was really heavy, and I know that a lot of you are gonna be like, this bitch read me to fucking filth. But something I would really like to leave you with that completely changed my life, and I don't even know where I got this from. I don't know if I like made it up myself in my head or what, but I told myself a while ago that I was going to chase things that genuinely made me feel good. I really focused in on things that made me feel good constantly. I don't mean like a one-off. I mean, every time I interact with this person, I feel good. I feel good. I feel like either if they're in a crisis or something, I feel like I help them, or if I feel like they're a good friend, or I feel happy when I talk to them, or I feel like I have a good time, or when I talk to this person, am I upset, or do I feel like not good on the inside? Do I have anxiety? I really honed in on how I felt when I was around certain people, and that told me everything that I needed to know. All I did was focus on chasing things that made me feel good and made me happy, and suddenly I lost a lot of people in my life. And I feel like that is probably one of the most important pieces of advice I could ever give you in my entire life, is just notice how you feel. Do you feel good? Do you feel peer pressured? When you share your wants and dreams with people, do they dismiss them? Do they shoot them down? Do they put you in this box where they say, well, that's not you? When you say, oh, I want to be an actress one day, do they laugh at you and say, you? You can never be an actress. Are you kidding me? You're like the shyest person I know. Are they constantly talking shit about other people and making you feel bad about yourself? Are they engaging in things that you don't want to surround yourself with? Are you trying to become clean in any aspect whatsoever, whether it's food, drugs, alcohol, sex, dating, doesn't matter what it is, and they're engaging in it in front of you and not supporting you? Support shows up in many different ways. It's vocal, it's verbal, it's physical, it's emotional, and it's mental. Are they showing up for you? Just look for it. Just look for the fact that, are these people showing up for you? And it doesn't matter who it is, your friends, your family, your relationships. Do they show up for you? Are they supportive? Did you post a TikTok video and your friends talk about it, but not a single one of your friends liked it or commented on it? That's important. And it's the same thing with a narcissistic relationship. Those tiny little things add up. Those tiny little things add up, because when things get bigger, those problems get bigger as well. Those people are going to try to steer you in the wrong direction because they're not happy about your success. People want you to be successful until you're more successful than them. Then they no longer like it. And that is the truest statement that I've ever heard in my entire life. And the people that are happy for you, regardless of where they are in life, are the people that you need to keep the absolute closest to you. Because, and I've said this before to a lot of my friends, and I used to say it in high school all the time, because I will never, ever forget, this guy was clowning this girl for working at like McDonald's or something. She was working at this drive-thru place. And it pissed me off because I had been working since I was 16. And I looked at him and I said, that's fucked up. That's fucked up that you're talking shit about her working at this fucking drive-thru place, because that's the job that she can get and she's busting her fucking ass to be at this job. That's fucked up. It's like, what's your problem? What's your problem? Because I didn't really know the girl. And I said, just as fast as God can shoot you up to the top, he can knock you to your fucking knees. So the fact that you're sitting here laughing at this person, laughing at the janitor, whoever the case may be, you could find yourself homeless tomorrow. You could be below them and they could be above you tomorrow. And it could happen so fast. You could blink your eye eyes and you could look around and be like, how the fuck did I end up here? So appreciate wherever the fuck that you're at, because you could, one, have it worse off, or two, have it better off. But just appreciate the fact of where you are right now, because the minute you realize, like, you know what, I'm okay with this. I'm okay that I'm here. I'm happy that I'm here. Look at the things around you. Look at your life around you. You have a roof over your head. Hopefully, God willing, you have a roof over your head. You have food to eat, and you get to sleep. You have the ability to walk. Let's break it down to really things that you need to appreciate. You have, hopefully, I don't know who I'm talking to, right? But you have all your limbs. You have the ability to breathe. You have the ability to see. You have the ability to walk. Do you know how many people can't walk? Do you know how many people can't see? There are so many things that we take advantage of in our life, and I feel like a lot of the times, if you just sit there and really think about how much different your life would be if you were in a different position than you are today, in both aspects, positive and negative, that it really makes you appreciate where you are now. And so I would like to leave you with that. And I hope that this podcast episode really made you feel something. I really hope I didn't make anybody cry or upset or anything, but I really felt like I needed to talk about this because, you know, I went through a lot of bullshit in my past, and, you know, without naming names, I've been through many different relationships that have offered me a lot of wisdom. And I always thought to myself that, how am I going to sit here and give people advice on relationships if I'm not in a relationship myself? How are you guys going to take advice from me if I'm not in a happy, healthy relationship? But truthfully and honestly, I feel like because I went through so much bullshit that I'm able to offer you insight on what's not to look for and things that maybe the average person wouldn't know. You have no, like, the average person that hasn't dealt with a narcissistic person, or somebody that has narcissistic tendencies, or somebody that hasn't been in a toxic dynamic, really isn't gonna know what to look for and really isn't gonna know what it's like. And then the people that have, just to know that there's somebody out there that has also experienced the absolute batshit crazy things that happen in those types of relationships and knows that it physically changes you. I mean, I went to a speed dating event and I'm acting like I'm with one of my previous relationships, you know, like, what? Like, how am I still holding on to that? You know what I mean? And you don't realize it until you're in it. Until you're so deep in it, you are practically drowning. That is when you realize you're in it. And the best thing that one of my therapists ever said to me was that it's a drip. It's a slow drip, right? It's just these slow little things. And I'm referring more so to a narcissistic relationship. It's a slow drip, just a little drip, a little drop of water. And the drop of water doesn't seem like a lot, but you're in a tub. Let's just say you're in a tub. You're at the bottom of the tub laying down. The drip of water doesn't seem like a lot, and it keeps dripping and dripping and dripping. And you don't think it's a lot, but before you know it, you're 4 feet underwater and you can't breathe. And you're like, holy shit, that little drip of water really added the fuck up. And I'm way in over my head. I am so far deep. I don't even know how I got here, and I have no idea how to swim. How do I get out of this? And you can't breathe. And you know what? Matter of fact, you're handcuffed at the bottom of the fucking bathtub, because that's how it feels. It feels impossible. And when you actually look at it, you're like, holy shit, how did I end up here? But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. And as a cute little sweet treat for the end of this episode, I did want to tell you guys a little secret. So I decided that I'm gonna start talking about like my dating life and stuff on strictly my podcast, because the men that I meet end up following me on Instagram or TikTok, and I don't want them to see, I don't want to deal with a Jack situation where they see me call them meaty man or whatever, and then I'm in this fucking situation where I have to explain to them, and then I can't post TikToks because then they know. Do you know what I'm saying? Where this is a little bit more secretive. It's a little bit more with my OGs. I feel like the people that listen to my podcast are my OGers, but I would like to make it known right now on this podcast, right before I'm about to end it, that I really want to have a hot girl summer, like a legit hot girl summer, where I'm talking like we have 3 main characters and we don't know which one we're gonna choose. Like, we have businessman, we have man with a boat, and we have CEO, and we're like, and then we have musician, rock star. Like, that's the type of summer I'm trying to have, where it's like, which one am I gonna choose? You know, that's what I want to do. So I usually always get into a relationship right before summer starts. So please, dear God, somebody save me from that happening. But I'm not going to talk about this on TikTok. I'm only talking about this in my podcast going forward. Anything to do with my dating life or anything to do with me in general. Anything to do with my personal life is going on the podcast. Everything else will stay on TikTok. Okay. So anyways, I hope you guys like this episode. I hope you find it enjoyable, and I hope you found at least some information that you can walk away with and be like, you know what? That bitch helped me out. Anyways, thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe the Alleged Tea Podcast on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. And I will see you next episode. Love you.